Let's make this bracket as one more practice for adding design requirements to a part. So this bracket is going to be sketched on the right plane with the thickness of the part being uniform throughout. We're going to have holes through here. They're going to be in the middle no matter what, no matter how large this part is, and then we'll have these two triangular ribs. They're going to be placed symmetrically across this front plane. So notice we've got the right plane here and the front plane here. Okay, so we're going to start by creating this sketch on the front plane. First, I'm going to add another part studio. For this bracket. So we're going to go ahead and create a sketch on the front plane. And we're going to try to capture all of these constraints to get this dimension of 1, 3, and 5 to drive this bracket size. Notice that I've got a little origin down here in the bottom right corner, and we're going to keep that. Here we go. Okay, I've created all of my geometry to start with, and now we're going to force on some constraints. When I place a dimension, I like to use the side-to-side version instead of clicking on the length of an individual component. This is going to maintain the distance between those two edges no matter what happens to this end length. So even if I were to add a chamfer around this corner, the distance between these two lines is going to stay longer than the length of this edge. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And for the bottom, I'm going to go from the two vertical edges and place my dimension there. Okay. Looks good. I still see a blue area here, and I need to figure out what it is that's making that want to change. It probably doesn't know the thickness, so I can use an equal sign to make the top and the side the same thickness, and there I've maintained the thickness of the part. It should always be uniform. Constraints are shown. Everything looks good. Green check mark. So we'll go ahead and extrude that. We're going to extrude that symmetrically. So I'm going to change the depth of my extrude from blind to symmetric and give it a thickness of 5. We'll go ahead and add this hole. So I'm going to place that hole on this back surface here. And when I place this hole, I want to make sure that I'm picking up that same origin that I used to create the sketch. So I grab that little construction line, place my hole, give it a size of 1, and notice it's not dimensioned up from the top, but rather it's dimensioned down from the bottom. And that's indicating to me that no matter how tall this part is, the more critical component is where it's located relative to the top rather than where it is located rather to the bottom. That's the more critical component here. Finish my sketch. And with that sketch selected, I can remove material. I don't want to add material, I want to remove it. So I'm going to flip this arrow, select the remove material icon. Okay. And it looks okay, and it would probably be fine, but really I don't want to give it a depth dimension. I want it to go all the way through no matter what. We can either use through all or up to next. Either of those would work. I'll use through all in this case. Alright, next we're going to add this slot here. So I go ahead and create a sketch on that step. I'm going to go ahead and use the circle tool. Again, I want to get it in the middle of this object. And then from here I'll create a rectangle. The rectangle is going to catch onto the edge of the circle, both sides, and stick to the face of the part. Let's get some dimensions on that. It's trying to make a diameter. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape and use my scissors to trim out the pieces I don't need here. Let's try again with the dimension. There we go, 0.5. Interesting, look what happened. Alright, so we've got some overlap up here, and at the bottom we've got an extra line, so let's clear that up. Trim out this piece. Use coincident to make those stick together. Let's just double check and make sure they're tangent as well. That helped lock things down. Remember, our goal is to get things to be black. And we'll go coincident. Well, looks like we got it, but okay. So we've got a radius of 5. That's defining the location and the distance apart between those two lines. We're still not locked down, so let's see what else we can do. Let's add a coincident constraint. Oh, we need a dimension. This point to this side is going to be 0.5. We're pretty good. We still have some blue lines over here. Let's see why that is. If I grab my line, see how that point was blue? I can still move it. So I'm going to go ahead and use the coincident constraint again to stick this point onto that line. So yours might have had different things that made it stick or not. We do want the circle to be on this line with a radius of 0.5, a depth of 0.5, and adjacent to this edge here. Okay. Again, remove. Okay. Removing the material, going towards the part, and going through all. Looking pretty good. Let's see here. We're going to add on some corners up here. Give those a radius of 1. And we're going to increase the diameter, or give a counterbore around the hole. Let's extrude that. We can just click on this little circle face here. I'm going to go the other way, but not too deep. 0.25. Remove. Looks great. Alright, let's go ahead and add in these ribs. However, in order to add these ribs in, we need to have a new plane that's created. So the plane tool we can find from the drop down of this offset surface tool. The plane tool is here. And I'm going to create a plane that's offset from my front plane. We're going to offset it, say 2. Oh, that doesn't look like quite right. Let's try 1.5. There we go. On that new plane that we created, we're going to go ahead and create a sketch. And that sketch is going to show us this cross section for the rib. So we have to add some constraints and some dimensions here. So we'll make the bottom of the line coincident to the top of the flange, and we'll make the side of this angled line coincident to the inside of the bracket. Next we'll add some dimensions. Again, I prefer to use a full line if I can to dimension rather than a point. It's going to stick around a little bit longer, be a little more robust of a dimension. Line to point with a dimension of 3. Okay. Everything's black and included, that's great. Let's finish up the line tool. Come all the way down to the bottom here. Notice how it let me go way too far. I'm going to go ahead and make that horizontal. Perfect. Finish that sketch, and I can create an extrude that's symmetric and with a thickness of 0.5. We do want it to be added to the existing object. And last, we can take that object, that extrude, and we'll create a mirror. We're going to switch it to a feature mirror. Select extrude 5 is the feature to mirror, and the mirror plane is the front plane. And that completes our designing with constraints practice part.